All right. We've seen and talked a lot about comedy across TV's first 4 decades, but as my mother used to say, is everything a joke to you? Turned out, yes, it was. Here's a look at some dramas. It's time to give drama its due, and here's a look at some of TV's best written dramas. Here now to join us for a discussion of some of the great dramas on our list are some of the great drama writers on our list. Vince Gilligan has written for lots of unusual shows, including The X-Files, which earned a spot on our list, and its spin-off The Lone Gunman. Then he decided to turn that old cliche, the cancerous, terminally ill math teacher turned meth dealer, into a series so difficult to stop watching, it has earned its own category in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Psychiatric Disorders. It has also won 7 Primetime Emmy Awards and 2 Writers Guild Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, the creator of the amazingly addictive Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan. Got the Norman Lear seat.
Couldn't be prouder.
Winnie Holzman got her start writing in television for the acclaimed drama 30-something, and went on to create and produce the memorable series My So-Called Life. Both shows recognized on our list. Along the way, she somehow found the time to write the book for the tiny little obscure hit musical Wicked. She's pleased to be included on our list, but my guess is she's disappointed that Jodi Arias was not recognized for her work on the very popular TV show The Jodi Arias Trial. Please welcome Winnie Holzman. Ronald Moore got his start in television after he passed a script to someone on a tour of the Star Trek set. He had previously dropped out of college and was then about to join the Navy but decided against it. So I think the lesson here is think twice before you commit. He's the winner of Emmy, Peabody, and Hugo Awards for his reinvention of a short-lived 70s sci-fi series he made completely his own, the utterly riveting Battlestar Galactica. Please welcome Ronald Moore. Matthew Weiner is the series creator of Mad Men, currently in its 6th season on AMC, where it's received 4 consecutive Emmy Awards for Outstanding Drama Series, in addition to 3 consecutive Golden Globe Awards, a Peabody Award, 3 Producers Guild Awards, 4 Writers Guild Awards, 2 BAFTA Awards, the 2008 Royal Television Society for International Program, and 5 Television Critic Association Awards, including Program of the Year. Somewhere there's a room full of people just making up awards to give to this man. Just so he wouldn't be disoriented because we're not giving out statuettes here later on in the evening, I'm going to give him my Emmys. We're that glad to have him. Welcome, Matthew Weiner. So, Matthew, let's get right to it. What's on Mad Men tonight?
It just aired.
Despite
this is half my audience here.
Let's start with you. Despite it's getting nearly universal acclaim, it's sort of famously known that you had no initial takers for Mad Men. What was the complaint?
Well, they hated everything about it, actually. The pilot was all about smoking. It was a period piece, which is an instant failure. You can't sell that abroad. Cost too much money. The hero, someone once told me that the hero was not good at his job. Trying to think what else. I don't know. I mean, I'm not in charge of picking those things. I never know what they didn't like about it. But I wrote it. I mean, I only pitched it once, and I'm not that good at that, and it went over really badly. I am not Don Draper. I do not know how to pitch, and also especially something that didn't exist. And so I just wrote it, and then it sort of, became a very popular, spec, like that it was around that this existed, and I got invited to a lot of TV networks and, for executives to say to me, "We love this script. What do you really want to do?" I mean, I don't know if you've seen TV, but we don't do this. But what do you want to do? And lucky for me, I did not stop pushing until someone gave it to David Chase, because I love The Sopranos, and I thought that David, because writers liked it, the 6 or 7 writers that had seen the script, which is really my audience, liked the script, and so I thought if David Chase saw this, he would take it to HBO, and I would get a chance to do the show, because my agents had already given it to HBO 3 or 4 times, and it would just go in. I never even got to go in the building. And
Wow.
So David said like a week after he finally got it, which was like a 6-month process just to get it through the agency to him, he called me and said and offered me a job on The Sopranos, which I was a half-hour comedy writer. I had no idea that would be the end result of it. No idea. And then I got to go on the show, and then once I was at The Sopranos, David gave it to HBO, and 4.5 years later, AMC made the pilot.
Just 1, 2, 3, just like that. So Vince, there you were, unemployed, and you decided to write something safe the whole family could enjoy together. This show could never have existed except for right now. What inspired you to even try to pitch it?
It was just one of those ideas that came to me, and that doesn't often happen. That's one of those eureka moments that you really hope for, you long for as a writer, and they do not happen very often. But when this idea hit me, I wasn't naive. I knew I'd done 7 years in the X-Files. I knew more or less how the business works. In hindsight, I don't remember why I didn't. That self-censoring, self-editing chip you have in your brain that makes you say, it's pointless to go into an executive suite and try to pitch this thing, because it's never going to fly. I don't know why I didn't censor myself. I'm glad I didn't. No one should, by the way. Go forward with the thing that excites you. Hopefully that goes without saying. Everybody here, I think, knows that, and that's luckily I didn't censor myself, but I don't know why it worked, but I'm glad it did.
How many times did you pitch it before? Do you mean you just pitched it once to the right people and that was it?
I was very fortunate in that I had a pre-existing. I'd done this very ill-fated CBS pilot called Battle Creek. The one good thing that came out of it, it never went. We never even got shot. But the one good thing that came out of it is that through it, I sort of created a relationship with Zach Van Amberg and Jamie Ehrlich at Sony Television. They were going to be the studio on it, and they really liked the script and said, open door policy. If you want to come pitch us any idea, no matter how crazy in the future, please call. So I did that, and as I'm pitching this thing, 50-year-old guy is, he's getting this really sad hand job from his wife, and then he finds out he's dying of cancer, and these guys' faces were just like, one of his out-of-body experiences where I'm floating above myself, saying this was a bad idea. And but lo and behold, they called me a couple days later and they said, "God help us, we're going to go around with you and try to sell it." And then came so that it started off with a good pitch with the studio, and then came a series of not so good pitches to the only 3 or 4 places in town that by any stretch of the imagination could have possibly bought it. There was only a couple of them at the time. There was
What part didn't they like? Was it the hand job? What's not to like? So how many times did you pitch it before you sold it?
Not that many, because there was HBO, there was Showtime, there was FX. We pitched to TNT. I don't think there was really nobody else. The AMC existed. They were the channel that showed Short Circuit 2 over and over again. That was, God bless them. I didn't know at the time that they were in the midst of prepping to do Mad Men, and I was, luckily for me, the timing worked out well. But as far as pitches went, there's only 4 of them, and the best, honestly, was to TNT. It was the best pitch because the 2 executives were wonderful, just a wonderful audience. They were like, and then what happens? Oh, and then what happens? They were such a pleasurable couple of executives to pitch to. They were really wonderful people. It was, hands down the best pitch I've ever had. And then at the end of it, they said, and I give them great credit for this because, as we all know, the best answer is yes. The second best answer, and it's a close second, is a quick no. And they said to me, we really, really like this. We have to ask, don't hate us. We feel like, jerk executives for asking this question. Can it be counterfeiting instead of meth? And I said, well, no. He said, we're sorry we asked. We're embarrassed to have asked. We are not going to be buying this. Nice to meet you. We would be fired if we bought it. But thank you very much.
Those people are just kicking themselves now.
No, I don't think they're kicking themselves because, and I'm not telling that story like to put them down. It was the best possible, the second best possible outcome from any pitch is just a quick no, a quick and respectful no, in which you truly know the reason that they're saying no, and they like you, they like the story. No, hats off to those guys. I'd do business with them any day. They were respectful.
I have a friend who always says the absence of yes over time equals no. Winnie, in the middle of all of these dark characters, there's a lot of angst on 30-something and in My So-Called Life. What were you?
Think so?
Yeah, you don't think? What were you thinking about
we had
adding
a
to the
little-
teenage girl pantheon when you pitched My So-Called Life?
Well, first of all, the idea came from Marshall Herskovitz and Ed Zwick. And the kind of genesis of it is that they had worked on a show that I used to watch a lot called Family with James Broderick, Matthew's dad, and Seda Thompson, and really well-written show. They had cut their TV teeth on that show, and there was a character played by Christy McNichol named Buddy, who was a teenage girl. And they used to get an answer when they would pitch ideas for Buddy. They would hear, our Buddy wouldn't do that. And they had built up a thing in their head where they wanted to do a teenage girl that would do all the things that Buddy wouldn't do. And they basically, I was working on 30-something, and they just brought me in one day and said, we have another show that ABC is, we've promised another show to ABC. We'd love you to create it. And we talked for a long, long time about, I didn't think that was the idea for me. I didn't know one single teenage girl at that point. I had a daughter who was 7, and I never thought about teenagers ever. And they just were, this was a case of really smart casting, where they understood that this would unleash something in me, I think. And that's what happened. I basically started to realize that I had all these opinions built up from having been a girl and watching TV my whole life about what hadn't been on TV. I guess I wanted her to have a sexuality, but that it wasn't something that it was something for her to enjoy and figure out. It wasn't something we were gonna exploit about her or make her into that. I just had all these opinions that kind of got unleashed, and that's the result. But in terms of angst, we did have a little crew hat made up that I believe said, angst for the memories.
It's the most realistic teenage girl I've ever seen on a show. I think it's just phenomenal. We haven't said anything to Ron yet. Hey, Ron.
Hello.
So you've actually also benefited by being on cable. Is it safe to say that like a network wouldn't have bought a reboot of a failed 70s sci-fi show?
They wouldn't have bought that one, but yeah, it wasn't such a tough sell at the time to Sci-Fi Channel itself, but there was no way I could have really sold it to any of the broadcast networks. Science fiction in general was not really well regarded, and there weren't a lot of open doors just for the material itself, just for the category to take it anywhere, much less to spin a really darker tale, than the original Battlestar, and to sort of do something that was much more political and like that.
What made you think that based on that original show, you could make such a great, different kind of series out of it?
Well, it was pitched to me, really. David Icke, who I knew through, I'd done some script consulting for a show at USA, and he was an executive at USA and Universal, and then he had a production deal. He called me up one day and just said, hey, there's been another attempt to redo Battlestar Galactica that's gone down, and Universal still really wants this somewhere on their show, on one of their cable networks, because it's a title in their library and blah, blah, and hey, you're the Star Trek guy, would you be interested in doing this? And I honestly wasn't sure at the time, because I'd done about 10 years at Star Trek, and I had been in space a long time. And I thought, I don't know that I want to go back to space. And I remembered the original show, because I watched it when I was a kid on air, but it had been a very long time since I'd seen it. And I said, well, let me find the pilot and watch it over the weekend, and I'll tell you on Monday. So I had to track down the pilot through Blockbuster. Ask your parents. And I found the pilot, and I watched it, and this was about 3-4 months after the 9/11 attacks, and I was watching Battlestar Galactica, and it was about an apocalyptic attack that the Cylons come in and destroy all of humanity, and then the show is about the survivors who escape into the night and are perpetually pursued by the people that destroyed their entire civilization. And I just realized that if you did a remake of that show in that moment, it was a chance to sort of do something relevant in science fiction, that you could take science fiction back to the time when it was sort of about social commentary, when it was really about us. It wasn't just escapist and popcorn fun, that there was really actually something at the heart of it, and it was going to resonate with the audience. And I thought if you did something truthful, about people in that kind of a situation, what happened to human beings when they went through a horrendous moment like that in time, it was an amazing opportunity. And so I called back on Monday and said, okay, I'm in, because I think we could really do something that would be different with the show.
I read a lot of interesting analyses of the show when I was sort of prepping for this, and one of the things I read is that some aspect of the show is based on the Book of Mormon. Is that true?
I don't know if that for a fact, but I've read that as well. Glenn Larson, who created the original Battlestar Galactica, I believe incorporated some tenets of Mormonism into it, but I know nothing of that.
You left that one behind.
Yes.
Mr. Bochco, I'm just wondering, given the tenor of the way that dramas are now, what stories do you think you would be telling on any of your shows with the lack of restrictions that these guys get to work with now?
Probably the same ones that I've already told, except, with a little more. Well, actually, not even with a little more. I'm always.
So you did not feel thwarted?
No, I'm always amazed by the fact that when we did NYPD Blue in 1993, and it really opened up some doors for us in terms of language and nudity and all that stuff. I thought that would really be a big game changer in terms of adult material for primetime television. It wasn't. It sort of hung out there by itself, and the rationale for it was, well, okay, that's Bochco, but it had caused such a stir that nobody wanted to, really extend those freedoms to other shows. And so, unfortunately, I don't think I could get that show on a broadcast network today. And so I don't know that I would be telling stories that are that different from the ones I've told, either in form or content.
Jim? I was wondering, if you were pitching Lou Grant today, how do you think that show would be different? Would it still be a newspaper?
Yeah, I think we'd be covering the death of journalism in a way if we did the show now. Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
I was gonna say something just about those restrictions. Is that AMC is TV 14, and so they're really like there's cable and there's basic cable and there are different levels of restrictions. One of the interesting things for me is that we turned in a script the second season where we had a story where about a show that was too controversial, and the sponsors had pulled out, and so they were going to cherry pick it and like get Block Drug, which apparently bought everything that everybody hated, to come in and buy this because the word abortion was used 42 times in this episode. So I don't know if the show is on this list. It's part of what, I don't know if it's in the style or not in style, but the show is called The Defenders, and it won the Emmy a couple years in a row, and it's a really remarkable TV show. Got my hands on the script, put the page in the script, sent it to the network, and they went nuts. They're like, we are not showing this scene where you keep saying the word abortion. I'm like, it won the Emmy in 1962.
Jeez.
Really? We can't do that? It went backwards. So I mean,
that's what I was
it's
thinking.
astounding.
Norman Lear was telling stories about abortion on what was it, Maude? So we in fact sort of did go backwards.
With that kind of subject, yes. I mean, maybe.
I got to do Tracy Ullman on HBO as a variety show. Started with Carol Burnett, and then the last variety show I did was Tracy Ullman, Tracy Takes On. And it was the exact opposite situation, whereas, push it, go further. Wait a minute, we can put her in blackface? Yeah, put her in blackface. Wait, we can say the F word? Yeah, say it 20 times, So it was them encouraging us to go further, take that envelope and put it in the toilet.
And the thing was at Battlestar, and I found this at Star Trek too, to an extent, was because we were a science fiction program, we got away with murder in terms of content and with subject matter. We dealt with religion, fundamentalism, monotheism, polytheism. We had our heroes, you saw a clip there with Colonel Ty. The rest of that scene is Colonel Ty, who's one of the heroes of the show, in defense of suicide bombings, because he's sending out humans to suicide bomb against the Cylons in a whole Iraqi kind of metaphor, the Iraqi occupation metaphor that we were doing. And the network never said anything about it, because basically if it's science fiction, it doesn't count, really. It doesn't, we can talk about all this really provocative stuff, but the audience doesn't care because it's Cylons or it's Vulcans or it's Klingons or whatever, but there's a certain distance that we gave the audience and the networks to kind of go, oh, okay, it's all right. Talk about all the politics you want, but how much blood on camera are you going to actually have during the suicide bombings of our heroes? You'd have these kind of crazy arguments where they wouldn't care about the political stuff or the religious stuff or any of the really stuff that I know you could never get away with.
And are you going to hurt a dog?
Yeah, you're going to hurt the dog.
This is sort of an odd question, but what do you think about American culture has changed that nobody has to be the all good guy anymore?
Cool.
I think it's always been like that. I think you can see from the people who are these legendary people who are up here that no matter what the format is, television in particular, because it comes into your living room, has a certain subversive attitude to it, and because we all get to sort of tell the truth to each other. And I don't know if it started because it was so restrictive or if it started from people putting their politics in a delicate way, but the American population is subversive, and we are an anti-authoritarian culture, and on one side of it is very good, one side of it's very bad, but we definitely have some issues with authority, and I think that it comes across in the most populist medium, which is television, and as long as they can, it's this battle with this hypocrisy between what we publicly want to tolerate and what we privately enjoy, and I think that what's out there now is that the marketplace is sort of controlling that, and it's been a great time.
All right, now I'm going to ad-lib a tag to the drama discussion. That was it. We have to move on. Here we go, counting down just short of our top 10 from number 34 on the list to number 100, from number 34 on the list of the 101 best written TV series.